Another economic consequence of COVID. People are struggling to feed their families, but there is help.
I think healthy food is a basic human right. Everyone should have access to the food they need to feed their family.
The push to save Seattle's beloved National Archives takes a positive turn.
There's a spirit that comes with their words in paper, their artifacts.
And a successful Black entrepreneur from Seattle's past will soon receive high honors. These stories and more, next on CityStream. Welcome to CityStream. I'm Nicole Sanchez. For nearly a year, Americans have been lining up. First, it was long lines for COVID testing. Now it's long waits for the vaccine. The pandemic also spurred panic buying, creating long lines at stores. Millions waited for their turn to apply for jobless benefits. That led to millions more lining up at food banks. Some people never thought they'd be in those long lines, but many of our neighbors, maybe even someone you know, are struggling right now to feed their families. Area food banks have seen their demand double. Plus, the volunteers they rely on are gone since most are in high-risk categories. But the community is stepping up when needed most. Linda Byron explains.
You're welcome.
The Ballard Food Bank was cruising along with some 3,000 visits a month when the pandemic hit. It felt like a tsunami.
Probably about 90% of our volunteers were seniors. A lot of those people had to step back, rightly so, which was huge for us.
And the need was skyrocketing.
What we've seen are just newer faces, right? People who have never visited a food bank before, they had a job, they lost the job, maybe they were furloughed. You know, these different things were happening to them. They might be in service industries or things like that. And they're coming to us because they need to access healthy food.
We serve a lot of people that actually are working, but they have to make a choice between eating and paying rent. So it's hard to, make ends meet.
Chicken and ham.
People like 38-year-old Sean Johnson, who never imagined he'd need help just to get by.
My reason is just the lack of hours at work. So just to, keep me afloat.
Did the hours get cut because of the pandemic?
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Yeah, it got cut because of the pandemic, and I work security, so we lost a couple of accounts, and a lot of accounts that we were at, a lot of businesses closed because of the pandemic, so I have no building to secure.
What we're finding is we're starting to get to know a whole new set of people, families, seniors, individuals that, this is the first time where they've had to ask for help.
Do what I gotta do. You see, I'm a big guy, I like to eat.
Sean's good humor in the face of adversity typifies the upbeat vibe at Ballard Food Bank. Because as COVID was forcing out older volunteers, new ones were streaming in.
We got some hot chocolate.
People like Tyler Harris of Maryland, who postponed medical school to join AmeriCorps. He's packing no-cook foods into bags intended for the homeless.
I do this because I think that serving the community is incredibly important, especially in this time.
Ivy League grad Ava Code Williams, also an AmeriCorps volunteer, is manning the walk-up window.
Yeah, people are really appreciative. There are so many people who are kind of surprised by all the different things that we can offer. And every time someone's surprised, it's like, yeah, that's what it's here for. Like, please take it.
And the army of volunteers literally includes the Army. 4 days a week, the Washington National Guard loads food into home delivery trucks and car trunks in the drive-through line that snakes down the block.
Every single one of them raised their hand and said, I want to help my community. They are here on their own accord.
I wanted to volunteer.
For supply specialist Priscilla Tran, it's personal.
My parents were both immigrants. My dad was from Vietnam and my mom was from Cambodia. So she escaped from the war, and she has expressed to me how difficult it was for her back then. Hearing their stories when they were younger, I know what it's like to not have a meal the next day. I feel like I'm giving back to the community that gave my parents an opportunity to be here.
The variety of services is astonishing. These volunteers are packing bags for the Weekend Food for Kids program. The bags will be dropped off at a dozen schools, where still more volunteers will get them to families needing food throughout the weekend.
I think healthy food is a basic human right. Everyone should have access to the food they need to feed their family.
Hundreds of people have their mail sent here, too. No car?
Let's put them all in the bag.
The food bank delivers to nearly 900 households a week, up from roughly 100 pre-pandemic.
I'm Julie Lowe, and I'm a delivery driver for the Ballard Food Bank. So I've been doing this since April, and I have the Wednesday at 1 p.m. shift. So every Wednesday I drive down the hill, I load up anywhere from 7 to 9 families, and I deliver them a week's worth of food. So I'm really lucky. I work at Microsoft, so I'm able to work from home. And since I work from home and I'm a Ballard resident, it's the perfect thing to do during lunch, and I give back to my community, and I'm able to do something that helps people with a really important need, which is food.
Since COVID hit, food deliveries and pickups have more than doubled.
My daughter joins me on the food runs, and for her it's been eye-opening, it's been educational that not all families live like ours, and it's not families that you see on TV. They're in our neighborhood, they're blocks from our house. I'm just calling to let you know I did your drop-off. You're so welcome.
You like a sandwich, meat?
Polly Cook says the food bank may just be one of the most uplifting places in all of Seattle. Where she used to spend her time alone blowing glass, she's joined a community.
So this is my work now, and I really love the people. I really feel like I am totally enjoying this experience.
When so many of us are having to isolate and be alone and be socially distant, but then you're able to come to this place and be active with others and have a common purpose.
There's a lot of people that's here that have jobs and have family and stuff, not just homeless, comes to the food bank.
Sean Johnson expects to be coming here for quite a while. Long gone any stigma he once felt.
I've seen nurses, come here and get food, pull up in nice cars to get food banks. You just don't know what people are going through. Because I'm not gonna lie, the first day I came here, I was taken aback, like, oh man, look at all these homeless G-druggies, and I had to snap out of it, because like, who am I to judge? You know what I mean? Like, I'm standing in the same line they are. I'm no better than no one.
There's something about that just, and I've probably said it too much, the word hope, but it's truly what we need right now. And I think it's truly what comes through in our community right now.
The Ballard Food Bank does a lot more than feed the hungry. It also provides financial assistance to help struggling families keep their lights and heat on by working with landlords and utility companies to set up repayment plans. It's all part of the food bank's mission to bring food and hope to its neighbors. Efforts to save the National Archives in Seattle takes a big step forward. Details as CityStream continues. Welcome back to CityStream. We have good news for those interested in saving the National Archives in Seattle. A federal court judge has just granted a preliminary injunction halting the sale of the archives property near Sandpoint. For more than 50 years, it's been a valuable resource to historians, genealogists, and Native Americans. But a year ago, the Trump administration targeted it for closure and proposed moving millions of its records out of state. As Felix Spinell reports, that effort touched a nerve.
There's an odd feeling in the air here, and it's not from the distinctive aroma of the millions of old documents stored in the building since the early 1960s. What's going on is that historians and genealogists who've been coming here for years, and people who have never visited before, have heard the news that the federal government wants to shut it down and move everything inside to California.
These are some of our earlier records. These are from the General Land Office, but they show the various Indian agencies and the allotments. This particular one is for the Puyallup and Muckleshoot Indian reservations. But I love these old maps because they did so much more than just draw lines.
Sue Karen is director of the federal facility, home to documents, photos, and one-of-a-kind maps, like this one from 1856. Signed by the first governor of Washington Territory.
These are the originals. Isaac Stevens' signature on it. This is the record that everything's based on.
The looming closure and sale of the building stem from 2016 legislation intended to identify underutilized federal property for fast-track disposal. But elected officials in the 4 states the facility serves, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska, say there should have been a public process. Patty Murray, Maria Cantwell, and other senators have asked the White House to reverse the decision. There's one group who depends on the facility and what's inside more than any other: Native Americans. Their lives were radically disrupted by the arrival of Europeans in the 19th century. The archives in Seattle constitute some of the earliest written records of indigenous culture in what's now Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. This is, in a way, the DNA for Native life, good and bad, in what became the United States.
This is the Register of Indian Families from the Puyallup Consolidated Agency. This is from 1902. And here you have just a register of the Indian families. You have, in some cases, the Indian name. People using these or looking at these registers, they're using them to document that the Bureau of Indian Affairs saw them as being a Puyallup Indian at this time.
In the months they were considering closure of the Seattle facility, the federal government didn't consult with any of the 272 tribes in the 4 states.
You know, I think they dropped the ball. You know, there's such a huge impact of this decision without consulting those who are affected. You know, this affects not just tribes. This affects every citizen in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Alaska. You know, all these folks have their history stored here.
In February, National Archives officials from Washington, D.C. visited Seattle. They invited a small group of tribes to Sandpoint to discuss the closure and the plan to move materials to California. But no one from the national office would talk to us on camera about the closure, or about the lack of public process, or talking to tribes like this before the decision was made.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here.
Demonstrators outside made their feelings very clear.
My ancestors are in here. Please don't take them away from me.
When the meeting was over, some tribal representatives were skeptical about promises made by the D.C. officials.
I hate to say it, but it's, 165 years later after the treaty signing, things were promised by the federal government, and like a hospital and a school, and it took many years. So it is my feeling that it'll be the same process again.
Archival documents, the actual original paper, not just digital copies, means something more to Brandon REYNON.
And be able to see, capture in that document the feelings that our ancestors must have felt. You're not going to get that when you're looking at a digital copy. You're not going to get that when you're looking at a computer screen.
And most of what's preserved in Seattle has not been digitized, including burial records for the old Cushman Indian School in Pierce County.
I have a voicemail that came in today from somebody that's a Tlingit, and they're wanting to get information on who's buried here from Cushman. And that information is up at Sandpoint. Alaska doesn't have access to those records anymore because all of those records were moved down here. So we act as a resource. They reach out to us and we're able to give them that information so that they know where their ancestors are.
And there's so much more irreplaceable tribal material in Seattle's vast and diverse holdings.
These are also some of our older documents. This is from the Tulalip Indian Reservation. And as you can see, they are, in some cases, very faded.
Irrigation maps from the Yakima Reservation in eastern Washington, a written tribal history from Umatilla, Oregon, and even photos of the baseball team at Metlakatla, Alaska. What happens if all this goes to California?
It might be hard for non-natives to understand, but there's a spirit that comes with their words in paper, their artifacts that are still attached, that we can still feel, that we still understand, that we can have that connection. And you move that stuff away, we lose that ability to feel that connection.
Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson and other officials are exploring ways to keep the facility open. Amber Taylor is optimistic some kind of solution will be found.
I think there's a lot of good people on our side. I think that there's a lot of people that are willing to stand with us, and we've been known to take action. So, like I said, we persevere. So, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson says this is not the end of the legal case. Ferguson hopes the same judge that issued the preliminary injunction will also permanently stop the sale of the archives in his final decision on the case. Next, as we observe Black History Month, an African-American entrepreneur from Seattle's past will soon receive a special honor. As the nation observes Black History Month, it's fitting the name William Gross has resurfaced in Seattle. Gross was the city's most successful 19th century Black entrepreneur and the founder of the city's earliest Black community. Local groups are working to convert a vacant fire station into a new African American cultural center that will bear his name. Felix Bennell reports.
The old fire station at Gessler and 23rd, Fire Station 6, has been sitting mostly vacant for a decade. It has a long history that stretches back to 1932. It's an architectural treasure, a visual landmark in the central area, and a place with a lot of potential.
So this is the main space for gathering, connection, events, performance, presentations.
The firefighters and trucks are long gone. They moved to a new station nearby in 2013, but a new era for the old station is about to begin. Seattle residents, led by a community group called AFRICATOWN Land Trust, will transform the building into the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation and Enterprise. William Gross's image is painted on a utility box across from the old station. But Seattle's early Black entrepreneur is not exactly a household name.
William Gross is definitely an under-recognized pioneer. He played a significant role in the regeneration of Seattle after the Great Fire, and he bought 12 acres of land from Henry Yesler in 1882 that established the Central District as a settling place for people of African descent. And that's what we see the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation and Enterprising presenting a great opportunity to do.
WYKING GARRETT is CEO of AFRICATOWN Land Trust. In June 2020, the City of Seattle agreed to transfer Fire Station 6 to the nonprofit group. The exact details are still being worked out, but plans are in motion.
And now we have an opportunity to repurpose it as a space that not only provides a vital function of bringing economic development, cultural development, community development, and really be a major vessel and vehicle for the regeneration of the Black community that has made its home here in the Central District.
The possible transfer of assets like Fire Station 6 was first identified as part of something called an equity analysis when Seattle was updating its long-range plan. It's now an element of the city's Equitable Development Initiative.
And the equity analysis just told us what the community knew around no matter what growth strategy the city was going to go with, there was going to be communities which are going to be impacted by both displacement, by lack of opportunity. And one of those neighborhoods and communities were the Central area community that has been historically African American community. That's where they were redlined, and they created homes and opportunities for themselves.
This isn't the first time a city resource has been dedicated to William Gross.
Under this huge evergreen, there's a plaque, and this plaque was the dedication of William Gross Park.
Stephanie Johnson-TOLIVER is president of the Black Heritage Society of Washington. The history group led the effort to name a park in Madison Valley in 1983.
His business was Our House, and Our House was a restaurant and hotel. And it was, people would come to town and visit. They would stay at this hotel, very popular hotel. He was well accepted by all communities in Seattle. He made loans to people. He was a philanthropist, all of those big things.
Stephanie Johnson-TOLIVER says the Seattle of William Gross's time, from the 1860s to the 1890s, was not yet a place where segregation or racial prejudice against black people had taken hold.
When he arrived, the community was really accepting of him, and he was able to move in circles that maybe you wouldn't expect that he would be able to move in at that time.
William Gross became a wealthy entrepreneur in 19th century Seattle. He's also considered the founder of Seattle's first black neighborhood, in Madison Valley. But a 1944 academic account of Gross's move from downtown to Madison is not exactly complimentary. It describes the neighborhood's growth as an invasion of Negroes. The redlining and those racial covenants followed soon after. GARDHEERE says that Fire Station 6 can help address these multiple historic wrongs.
Transferring city-owned properties or investing in communities that have been impacted by racially restrictive covenants, redlining, widespread disinvestment is the right direction for the city to take right now, to partner with and work with these communities to build wealth.
Timing for the project and plans for raising the money required to transform the old fire station into the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation and Enterprise will come in 2021. In the meantime, AFRICATOWN Land Trust is looking to the future, but keeping an eye on the past.
The city and the mayor and the city council and the people on that side are able to finally embrace the opportunity and facilitate the community moving forward in this way. So I think that's the positive, and it speaks to just sticking to it.
The AFRICATOWN Land Trust has begun limited renovation of the old fire station. It hopes to dedicate the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation later this year. That wraps up this episode of CityStream. If you'd like to watch more great Seattle Channel programming, visit our website, seattlechannel.org, and click on Feature Shows. I'm Nicole Sanchez. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe and take care.